Welcome back, everybody. We are lucky we have a nice ZVZ lined up between Elazer and Lambo. Nice European Zerg versus Zerg. These Zergs used to be on the same team on Clash, if I remember correctly. And they have played each other very often. Both fairly accomplished Zerg players in their own right. And we see Lambo going for an expansion on his third base. He's going for a cheeky 3-hatch before anything. And if Elazer doesn't scout it or he sees it too late, Lambo just straight up has an advantage. And on the other side of the map, we see Elazer doing the stock standard hatch gas pool. So this is probably what Lambo is hoping for, or at least expecting. So if Elazer doesn't scout it with his first Overlord, I feel like this should favor Lambo in this series. I'm very curious what he will do with this, well, different setup from usual. The obvious advantage is that he has his third base earlier, so that if he can keep saturating his bases, he'll just have his third base ready to be saturated before Elazer does. As you can see, Elazer is now sending out his third base, making 2 queens, actually sending back the drone, not making a third base. And that is because Elazer scouted that Lambo's hatchery is not quite done yet. So Elazer has to account for the fact that maybe it's an early pool play, like a pool hatch. So then there might be a gas, and there might be a baneling nest, and speed might also be almost done. So if we look at Elazer's perspective, he only saw this hatchery, which his hatchery is already done. And as ZVZ, you often compare your own timings to your opponent's timings. And since they didn't line up, Lambo must be doing something cheeky, so Elazer decided to be somewhat defensive, and now he's scouting around and he found the third base. Didn't spot it with his Overlord. So now he knows what's up, and even though the worker counts are the same, you'd expect Lambo to be slightly ahead right now. He is mining gas, so he's kind of expecting to have a little Baneling Zergling skirmish. Lambo scattering around. He finds the Baneling nest, so he knows that he has a Baneling nest as well, but that Elazer can't have Banelings on his side of the map right now. But there could be an attack coming right now, and that is indeed what is happening. Elazer's making a ton of lings. This makes sense for his build because he has 2 bases saturated and his third base isn't ready yet to receive any drones. So a nice ling flood with some banelings here, making use of your own tech, is a good idea. But Lambo is moving across the map and actually pressuring this third that isn't done. Ooh, nice baneling hit there. This is a good move by Lambo because Elazer is missing a complete hatchery of larva production. Oh my god! Elazer just lost all of his lings to the banelings of Lambo, and Lambo loses all of his links to the baneling of Elazer. Meanwhile, Elazer counter-attacking at the third base, at the natural. 3 banelings waddling on in, splits by Lambo, looking pretty good. Look at that. This baneling can only delay the mining time and gets 1 drone. Beautiful. Now Lambo is ahead in the drone count, so if he can defend or even pressure Elazer, he should be able to overwhelm. Elazer is posturing very aggressively though, running into the third base. Banelings trying to ward away all of those Zerglings. This ramp is the ramp of death apparently. Banelings trying to connect with these Zerglings, and Zerglings are obviously faster, but it's very hard to keep controlling your entire army. 1 Baneling gets picked off for 2 links, that's a good trade. And Elazer retreated and caught up in drones as well. He has an extra set of queens because he delayed his third base. He had money for some extra queens. That's a good idea. You have transfuses, so you can defend it. and you can skim a little bit on, for example, a Roach Warren or any amount of Banelings. And of course, Queens are also very good at targeting down Banelings. Lambo moving in with 7 Banelings of his own. One goes down, he's trying to catch the Banes of Elazer. And now the Roaches are out for Elazer. I don't know if Lambo fires up 9 Roaches of himself, whilst Elazer fires up 10 drones. So with all of that, Elazer's now up 10 workers. Now Lambo's firing up 7 drones of his own, but actually looks pretty good for Elazer. He got a decent reaction out of Lambo after Lambo already committed to some aggression. And now there's a Spire being built, +1 range underway. And even though these are just slow Roaches, they can still help you control the map if you have some Banelings with them. Now, there's a timer on Lambo's life here. He only has his lair halfway done. Elazer, because he was on 2 base, he just invested all of his resources in other things than more drones and more economy. So he's slightly ahead in tech. And now his lair, which he kind of rushed, is now almost done. And as soon as that finishes and the mutas are out, Lambo can't move across the map anymore. He did just scout this double gas, which should give him some kind of an inkling. And he actually goes for a Spire himself. Nice hatchery cancel by Elazer here. Roaches, slow Roaches, moving across the map actually. No Roach speed, so maybe Elazer wants to get rid of these. I don't think so actually, because he does have +1 range. So this is just making sure that Lambo spends all of his gas on Banelings, on Roaches, on not Mutalisk. And then Elazer shows up with way more Mutalisk than Lambo, and that is honestly just GG. Muta versus Muta is all about having more Mutalisk and having armor upgrades. Damn, and Elazer is firing up more and more Roaches. So these Mutalisk are just for map control. Actually, a cancel on the Spire by Lambo. He does not want to go into a Muta-Muta war, where he knows he already invested a lot of gas into other stuff. So, very nice of Elazer to show his Mutalisk on time, so that Lambo could still cancel his Spire. Of course, Elazer knew about the Spire, but it's hard to time like that. And those resources are still wasted, because the Spire takes hella long to build. This 4th base has been cancelled twice now. And a lot of Roaches with some mutas are trying to force the position of Lambo, but Queens and Transfuse are pretty good. Of course, Defender's Advantage is still in effect. Ravagers are being built from the weakened Roaches. And now Roach speed is done for Lambo, but not done for Elazer. So if Lambo has more Roaches, he can chase down Elazer all the way back to his base, but Elazer has more Roaches, so then Roach speed almost doesn't matter. It helps with getting a concave slightly faster, and your Roaches will take other Roaches' place slightly faster. But still, Lambo's just down in units, and he's making 13 Hydras, but he lost the whole front line of his army. The whole meat and shield of the Roaches was just crushed by Elazer. That looked incredibly clean by Elazer. And we're back in this best of 5 between Lambo and Elazer. The winner moves on to the round of 4, and he gets to face Solar. And we have a cheeky 12 pool from Lambo on NeoHumanity. So interested to see how he's going to use that. Is he going to expand behind it? Is he going to throw down a cheeky gas and go all in? Or does he just want a cancellation or a lot of pressure on the natural base of Elazer? This map is fairly short rush distance, but the slow zone does help out with that. Elazer going for hatch first. Probably gas pool, so stock standard play from him. And another Well, non-standard opener by Lambo. I'm loving it so far. Pulling up the 3 larvae to get out his Zergling force. And now I expect him to take his natural after this, whilst making about 10 lings to cancel the natural of Elazer. But no, he's actually sending out 2 drones. Is he going for the spine crawlers? He's sending out all of his drones. What? Holy... He's sending them around. Oh, no, 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 no. Elazer sees it. What? Elazer sees it, but, I mean, I guess Lambo just believes that the rush distance is too small and that you can't defend this properly. Okay, we see a giant wall coming out from Elazer. 1, 2, 3, 4 Evo chambers so that there can be no spine crawlers placed on the edge. 5 Evo chambers. And Lambo says, no problem, I'll just put them right here. So all these Evo chambers will be cancelled now. Get that money back. He needs to make a queen, he needs to make Zerglings, and maybe even a spine at his natural, so that if this base dies, he can retreat to the natural. Actually, this one drone made sure that the spine crawler could not be made. And now Lambo needs to defend his spine crawlers and get them up and running. Elazer gets his Zerglings of his own now. Drones start to nibble away. Zerglings are a lot stronger than drones, but drones have a lot of HP. Big fight happening right now. More Zerglings arrive from both sides. The drones of Lambo do die, but the spines finish up. And Lambo now has a anchoring point in the main base of Elazer. One queen does spawn, but she's kind of stuck in the main base. She does target down a drone for the troubles. And now the spines are moving down. Oh, one spine is rooted and is attacking. Second spine is being rooted down. We're trying to follow the drones and kill them. All of the units of Lambo are dead except for this one Zergling, but 3 spine crawlers are pretty good at killing other Zerg units. And now there's one spine in the natural, basically destroying every unit that ever comes out of this hatchery. One drone is chilling over there. And now Lambo's leapfrogging his spines forward, trying to stop the mining and production of Elazer. Lings go and try and kill the queen. Barely can't kill the queen. Oh, needs to unroot this spine crawler again, because it's almost dead. Oh, the Zerglings are going to get it. He actually moved it out of range of the spine crawler, so it couldn't be defended anymore. It has 1 HP, 3 HP. It's still alive, and now the 2 Zerglings do finish it off, but this full HP spine crawler next to the hatchery, what are you to do as Elazer? Lambo's still on 3 drones at home, and, well, oh no, the 1 drone in his natural did die. And he's just rallying Zerglings, trying to end this game. Actually, a transfuse on a Zergling. Trying to get every advantage that he can get on Elazer, and Elazer has these Lings trying to catch the lower Ling numbers of Lambo. The spine rerouted, and the Lings are going for it. These spines do have pretty high armor when they're rooted, but when they're unrooted, I think they lose their base armor. Not sure on that, though. But they're pretty good at tanking Lings nonetheless, but all the spines are dead, the Zerglings are dead, and Elazer has helped this. Lambo GG's out, knowing that Elazer has 2 hatcheries and 6 drones. So that should be an easy win for him. And just like that, we are in the 3rd game of this best of 5. Lambo is now down 2-0 to Liquid's Elazer. Lambo, of course, Shopify Rebellion's player. And the first game, we saw Lambo do a cheeky 3 hatch before pool and really catching Elazer off guard with that. But Elazer, with a very swift and sharp response, was actually able to wrestle out an advantage of his own in the tech department, and suddenly Lambo was on the back foot and he got toppled in game 1. And then game 2, Lambo again elected to not play standard but go for a 12 pool into a full drone pull. Yeah, went for 12 pull and pulled drones, and then he built 3 spine crawlers in the main of Elazer, trying to get a foothold in between the main and the natural on that map. And if you have spines on top of your opponent's natural, where you can hit their minerals, and you can also threaten the main, then that build is super duper strong. But Elazer was able to hold that off by placing 5 Evo chambers to delay the spine crawlers, and then he was able to pump out enough Zerglings and mine enough minerals to be able to do that, whilst keeping his drones alive and trading effectively against the spines, the lings, and the drones. He was able to take the victory there as well. So Lambo tried two pretty cheeky prepared strategies, which I love to see, but Elazer did manage to hold them off. So that must be a little demotivating for Lambo. I'm curious to see what he'll do. I hope that he prepared this series beforehand and he just prepared for every map that he wanted to play, so that he just knows what he needs to do on this map because he believes in his strategies, and that he doesn't get flustered. Because that can happen, where you're like, oh, my strategies are not working, I guess I shouldn't do the strategies that I prepared because the other ones aren't working. Like, anything that you prepared is probably stronger than the thing you're going to think about on the spot. I mean, it can be different, obviously. Sometimes you just have to wing it, but I'm a firm believer in sticking with your prep. Elazer made 4 lings, where Lambo only made 2. One ling goes down. Queen, hello? The Zergling needed a little help. One ling goes down from Lambo as well. As you can see, very mirrored build so far. There's an extra queen being built from Lambo. So that's the first deviation that we see. Lambo's making an extra queen. Interesting to see that Elazer elected to not get it, but now he invested in it. So he gets that third queen slightly later. Of course, you want to have 3 queens ready to go as soon as this third hatchery pops, because then you can actually utilize it for the larva as well as you can. Drone counts are fairly equal here, and we just see small amounts of lings being made, so you can make a couple defensive banelings, and then it's just drones. Both sides finish up their third base. Queens are about to be present. Elazer actually injects his third base earlier, even though Lambo had the queen earlier. But Lambo does have this creep tumor that Elazer does not, so Lambo can connect his bases with creep a little bit more efficiently, making early roaches for him a more viable defense. But in saying that, Elazer actually goes for an earlier roach warren than our boy Lambo does. We have a quick lair for Elazer once again. He's loving that quick lair, and I'm loving it too. Tech helps you differentiate from your opponent in ZVZ, which means you're just not, you're not condemned to butting heads in Roach versus Roach all game. You can actually get a lead in something. You can get Roach speed earlier, you can get Hydras earlier, you can do a Nidus play, you can get the Mutas, you can get your +2 upgrades earlier, you can even get Overlord speed and drop. Like, you can do all those things with Lair, even burrow movement speed on your roaches. So I love seeing an early Lair, and we see a Spire play from Elazer again, and the 5th and 6th gas kind of signaling the fact that he threw it down. You often see Zergs saturate all of their bases with 4 gases, and then they throw down the Spire and the 5th and 6th gas. Now, I hope or think that, yes, Lambo did see this, and he... Ooh, Elazer's going for a cheeky +1 melee, so this Roach Warren is a little fake. For now, at least. He might decide to transition back into Roaches after he got his first amount of Muta. But Muta with +1 Ling is very potent in denying 4th and 5th bases, because they are so mobile. First they attack your 4th base, then they run into your natural, and then your Lings or Banelings are running around, and the Mutas will snipe your Banes and like attack your Overlords and your Roaches, and suddenly your supply blocked and your Queens are dead, and like, you know how it goes. Like, chaos ensues and you might just end up dying. Little attack here from Elazer to distract from the fact that he's a greedy boy and actually is saving up a lot of money for these Mutalisk. Meanwhile, we see an infestation pit for Elazer. I wonder what the queen count is at. We only see 4 queens for Lambo, but sport crawlers are being made. So Lambo is in the know. He kind of knows, like, okay, if you're going Muta off a 3 base, they're probably out around 6:45. So he plonks down his spores at 6:30. And his plan is to get infestors with fungal, and he's making 4 extra queens, and he made a 4th base as well, knowing that Elazer would not be able to cancel this, because he wasn't going to commit to a large roach ling force to cancel this 4th base. So Lambo's reacting really well in this game to what Elazer is doing, and Elazer is going for the surefire damage. He kills an extractor. This is also very nice against any Zerg opponent that is being a cheeky asshole and goes for a Spire himself. I'm sure if you play Zerg, it's happened to you where you're like, okay, I went Spire, my opponent scouted it, and he was like, he threw down his own Spire because he perhaps enjoys playing Muta versus Muta, and then you didn't take that into account, right? Because that's a bad response, in theory, because your opponent will be behind in Mutalisk. And then you don't get the right upgrades, or you don't get your gases super fast, or you're transitioning and spending your gas elsewhere, and suddenly your opponent has a bunch of Muta. So that's super annoying. So canceling one of those gases can help with that. Put them even further behind if they were trying to Muta it up. And you also get some intel, of course. But you'd rather have your Mutas doing damage, obviously, instead of doing nothing. Which is why they're now flying around, and Overlords are spread all around, because the skies do belong to Elazer right now. And so we have a pretty cool game here, where both players now have an asymmetrical army. Damn, that's a lot of Banelings! But there's a fungal! That's a juicy fungal with a nice roach wall. Lambo was waiting for it. Another fungal, and the queens are doing a number on these Mutalisk. And now we have a roach burrow movement done as well. This hatchery survives. 5 drones gave their lives. And the hatchery does get targeted down by these Muta. So that was a nice attack by Elazer. Trying to target the infestors. But of course, spore crawlers make it really hard to have overseers with your army, and now he only has 5 Mutalisk left over, signaling that he's transitioning into a different army. Keeping these alive, however, is very nice, because if your opponent makes Ravagers, those have less armor, and you can just click them down. They can't shoot up, not really. So you could harass your opponent's force until they have Hydras. So keeping these alive until you see a pack of Hydras is really valuable. Lambo moves in, but of course there's no reason to fight. They both have roach speed. Then Lambo does have one upgrade that is better, but he's low in supply, and that move out was just to secure his 4th base again. Nice roaches in the 4th base. So this burrow move backstab did work. 4 drones do go down. That is annoying for Elazer to deal with. So we see spines going up already. He's like, oh, he's gonna keep doing that. I don't want to deal with this. But Vipers are out. So we have Roach Ravager, Infestor, Viper. Now that's a comp that can rival the effectiveness of a Lurker Hydra in this matchup if you get to it. And since Liquid's Elazer did... Oh, Muta's trying to get some damage done here. Did make a detour in his tech tree to go into Muta's first. Lambo was able to get up to both spellcasters, but now is transitioning into the Lurkers because he feels comfortable doing that. I'm kind of interested in why he's comfortable doing that. I guess he feels like he can't die. And even though Elazer has a bigger army, so he can't crack the Elazer nut, probably. So he wants to transition into Lurker, so he can actually fight Elazer's Lurkers that will come out at some point, because they're just good units. Lurkers and Spore Crawlers, man. And a couple Vipers added in there. That's the ultimate ZVZ composition. We see a bunch of Hydras in Lambo's army here, so if Lambo can force a fight here, he can shred this army really well. But Lambo's staying back here, not identifying that he has a stronger army here. He is also ahead in upgrades, 2 upgrades ahead even. Elazer is about to finish those upgrades, so kind of an anti-timing for Elazer, but a good timing for Lambo. Biles being thrown down, zoning out the armies, forcing both of the armies to retreat, because if you stay there, you eat Biles. Ooh, nice lurker hits here. Elazer is staying here because he knows he can't break Lambo, but he doesn't want Lambo to run across the map with these lurkers. Because if these lurkers unburrow, Elazer immediately engages and forces them to burrow again. It's kind of the same as siege tanks. Whereas siege tanks that are not sieged aren't that scary, but you need to force them to be sieged by being in front of your opponent's army or base. Big Roach Ravager force moving across the map though. Lambo can defend this with Lurker, Viper, Hydra, and 4 Spines don't do shit against Roach Ravager with 2-1 upgrades. Upgrades are pretty good against static defense. And now the Roaches of Elazer are trying to clean this up. But Lambo just runs away and now also tries to break out because he knows Elazer just pulled back a bunch of his force. Like, Lambo knows where most of the army of Elazer is. It's in his own natural, it's in his own 4th base. So now Lambo tries to push out and get a nice position with his lurker force. And now Elazer's also producing lurkers. This, let's call it a 5th base, did fall. 6th base is still alive though. But Lambo's 5th base is uncontested, whereas Elazer doesn't feel safe to use his. Just try to re-establish the 5th base over here, but now there is lurkers everywhere, and you need a lot of abduct to get rid of them. He does have a couple Vipers with abducts, though. A lot of Roaches actually get killed here. Very nice move by Elazer, not being afraid. This 6th base is a trap. It's just a scapegoat, a substitute. If Lambo spends any time on it, Elazer can move forward and pick off your lurkers. And now Lambo moves back. Stays out on the map though, making sure that Elazer can't take too much of the map without walking into lurkers. Lambo trying to take his 6th base now. This little force staying on the map to be annoying. Engaging the lurker now. Kinda needs to retreat. This is a way stronger force by Elazer, but Lambo can just retreat because they are about the same movement and there's no fungal on the side of Elazer. And if Elazer uses abducts on your Roaches or even Hydras, you're kind of okay with that. Because those are not the most expensive or tech-heavy units. They don't take the most time and or resources. Whereas lurkers, they're expensive and they take a lot of money to make. Sixth base is being denied by Elazer's Roach force. Meanwhile, is also running into the 3rd base, trying to get that killed with a run forward lurker siege. This is the scary thing about these lurkers with the speed upgrades. They can run in and take a position, but amazingly crushing blinding clouds by Lambo. He has 5 Vipers and a lot of energy on them, so he could just blinding cloud all of the lurkers, and Elazer did clump up his lurkers. Had a little pause there. Money, money. This is starting to look pretty decent for Lambo. He's about to catch back up in upgrades, which Elazer did a good job because he used to be behind in upgrades, but actually he's now ahead in upgrades. And Lambo trying to respread his overlords because there's no more mutas on the map. But damn, that's a lot of Hydra. Elazer has basically transitioned into pure Hydra Lurker right now. Hydra Lurker Viper is the composition that you want to see in the late game for Zerg versus Zerg. Because Lurkers kill everything, Hydras kill everything that is abducted into the Lurker Hydra. And you want to protect your own Vipers, basically. It's all about the Lurkers. Vipers deal with Lurkers, and Hydras deal with the Vipers. And the Lurkers deal with the Hydras again. And then you just want to have more of those than your opponent. Now we see a cheeky Nidus Worm coming out. +3 armor right away for Lambo. We actually see 12 drones coming out for Elazer. They're both on 60 drones. So that will be a nice advantage for Elazer. Ooh. Small force from Lambo runs into the 5th base and actually manages to target it down. Very nice. Elazer hates to see that. He actually doesn't have an extra mining base to use those extra drones on that he just made. As you can see, his 3rd base is halfway mined out. His natural's more than halfway mined out. And his main is actually only producing about 1/4 the income it used to and about to deplete. So Elazer only has one healthy base with this new one making. So if Elazer loses his army now, Lambo will be able to force Elazer to topple over and leave this game by remaxing and attacking him over and over and over again. Nidus, actually unloads 2 Lurkers into their doom. Lambo only showing 2 queens attacking the Nidus, so kind of tricked Elazer here. Elazer's running in again with this Hydra Lurker force. Looks a bit like a crazy move, but once you get those Lurkers established, suddenly Lambo can't move into this area anymore. So very nicely done by Elazer, taking control of this area and killing the 3rd base. Nidus is in a lot of extra Lurkers, and now he can actually siege this 5th base with the vision that this one Viper is providing, killing 21 drones! 25 drones, but Lambo says, thank you. I am Giga Obunko rich. I just make more unit now. And then Lambo's army supply will skyrocket. So even though it feels like Elazer did a bunch of good damage here, it's actually good for Lambo. Because he has a bank, and now Elazer might get overconfident and run into a 150 supply army of Lambo. And they're almost equal in army upgrades, so that will make it very difficult for Elazer to get any type of advantage. He needs to actually retreat and get an entrenched position with his Lurkers. Doesn't necessarily have to retreat for that. And he's trying to do that, but Vipers do deal pretty well with those entrenched Lurkers. Meanwhile, Lambo has another force out on the map, killing the 7th base of Elazer. Elazer's trying to hold this area so that Lambo can't move over to his base, or his bases. But Lambo is completely done with Elazer shenaniganry. He's stonewalling him at the 5th base, and he's also killing his 5th base. And just like that, 150 supply army is pretty strong, and Lambo takes the 3rd game of this best of 5. And we are back in a Lambo versus Elazer game number 4 in this best of 5, after we saw Lambo win a 3rd game with pure perseverance on his side. We saw Elazer took a lot of map control again with Mutalisk, did quite a bit of damage, and sniped the 4th base of Lambo with a bunch of Banelings and his Mutalisk, and actually managed to transition into a Hydra Lurker late game versus the Lambo, who tried to do the same off of more of a Roach, Hydra, Infestor, Viper composition, where he got early Infestors with a bunch of Queens and some Spore Crawlers to deal with the Miras, and he didn't show the Infestors, so he got a monster fungal on a big Baneling clump and was then able to absorb them with his roaches. But they still did enough damage to a hatchery so that Elazer could actually snipe that hatchery. So it looked to be fairly even, and it was, and then Elazer actually went up in bases. But Lambo managed to stay ahead economically regardless, take way better trades with the armies consistently. And even though Elazer had more economy, so he could afford these less economical trades, or less efficient trades, at some point, Lambo had a nice stockpile of money. Elazer finally did some damage, but then, ironically, it actually helped Lambo because now he had less workers, but he still had money, so suddenly his army became huge. Elazer just traded off some army to do some damage to the worker lines of Lambo, and then all of a sudden Lambo was counterattacking, he had a better army, Elazer was split thin, and eventually Lambo was able to topple him in that third game. Now for the fourth game, we actually see a fairly similar opener from both sides to game number 3. The openers are actually identical right now. We see the players basically doing the same thing. Lambo confirming that there's a third. Elazer also confirming that there's a third on Lambo's side of the map. And these players have not deviated from each other just yet. This is what we call stock standard ZVZ. If you're looking to learn ZVZ, you can look at this game and try to hit these benchmarks. Try to get your Baneling nest up at their time. Try to get your drone count up at their count. Just emulate this game from either side, and you'll be fairly happy. We see the first deviation, however, is a Roach Warren and second gas from Elazer. So he is going to be pulling out maybe some Roach aggression. We see some Lings making sure that there cannot be a scout. There's no queen in the main, so there's only 2 queens out, and he's actually sending out some drones, which may or may not be fake. I think he just pulled 2 drones from his third base and sent them to his natural, and now he's firing up the roaches. 10 roaches. So I expect him to follow this up with a bunch of Zerglings and then Lingbane in the front. So Elazer is attacking a little bit, but mostly just in an effort to distract Lambo from the fact that roaches will be marching across the map, and Lambo sees it right away, and his Roach Warren is completed. He's slightly ahead in workers, and let's see what Elazer elects to do here. Does he double down on the attack and make a bunch of Banelings, or does he make one wave of Zerglings and then drones behind this attack? Lambo's taking this very seriously. 1 spine, 2 spine, army centralized, nothing to be gained in the third base for Elazer. Lambo tries to cut off part of the army, but the Banelings do defend it. Spine dies, does not get cancelled. But Lambo, apparently he wants to save this third base. Elazer is committing to this, however. He has no workers, or he's making no extra workers. So if Lambo can hold on and use his third effectively and not trickle in these units one by one, he should be able to hold. But as long as Elazer's in between these bases, oh, the fight starts. Oh, big Lings swarm comes in onto these roaches. No Banelings from Lambo's side to defend. Spine comes down to the low ground. Knight's Transfuse on one of the roaches. It seems like Lambo will hold. But Elazer's still committing to this. 20 more Lings come out and 2 drones. And also a lair from both sides. So both sides know, okay, nothing's gonna happen. So the dangerous thing there is if Elazer gets to keep this position in between the 2 bases of Lambo, which are not connected by creep either, which, I mean, it kind of helps both sides, but because Elazer is in between Lambo's bases, every unit that is produced from that third base is now subject to dying, because as soon as they spawn, there's 6 roaches on top of them, and they just kill that unit that just spawned, which basically means Lambo is wasting larva and money. Ling run by here from Elazer, kills 2 drones, and gets out again. So both players droning up, trying to do some backstabbery, and we see 4 gases on both sides. +1 range for Lambo. Lair finishes up for both sides. We see no upgrades for Elazer. Let's see if he elects to go for the Mutalisk once again. It is actually Lambo's going for the Mutalisk. He feels like he can afford them. Off of 4 gas, so probably only going to be 5 to 8 mutas. Like 6 to 7 is a nice number to take the map control and kill the overlords, but actually losing precious drones here. He just made 2 extractors and he has barely any mineral income. Plus, I think Elazer just spotted that, so he kind of knows what's up now. On his side of the map, he's also taking extra gases, and he also has his own spire, but he has a lot of mineral saturation compared to Lambo. He's up 9 workers, so these constant Ling pokes are doing a lot of damage to Lambo. And so even though he started his spire a little earlier, he'll have the same amount of gas, but he'll be lower on workers. So he'll be able to make less Zerglings to defend against any other Zergling run-bys, basically to supplement your Mutalisk army. Now, Elazer moving across the map here, trying to make a Lambo react to this, maybe even cancel this 4th base. That would be very cheeky. 4 Ravagers are pretty gas intensive, and there's 8 Mutalisk underway, so if Lambo can get on top of this army in the middle of the map with his Mutalisk and snipe all these Ravagers for free, that's gonna feel really good for him. Lambo's also going into +2 attack, so Lambo invested a lot in tech, in Mutalisk, and he had to remake drones as well. He was on a lower economy, so I feel like if Lambo can survive for the next couple minutes, keep this army from hitting him in the face, he'll be fine. But right now, he's behind on that army count. Although he is allowed to snipe a bunch of overlords. And as you can see, no air upgrades for Lambo, because he's not expecting Elazer to have a spire of his own, and he doesn't know that yet. Now, does he? He actually does. He has seen it, but has he seen it? Maybe he expects it to be cancelled, because that is what he did in the previous game, if you remember. This exact thing happened where they both had a spire building, and Lambo actually scouted it, saw that his spire was later, and he cancelled it because he already invested into a transition, just like he did now. He's already making Hydralisk. So now we see this Mutaflock of Elazer, and Lambo doesn't know this. Now he knows. He's like, oh my god, what the hell? And now he splits his Mutaflock into 2, trying to keep some of them alive. Actually keeping a lot of them alive. No mutas have died just yet, and if Lambo identifies that he's up in upgrades, he just has to pump roaches and stay alive. Oh my god, Elazer runs in and gets a wonderful position. Again, that's very same position, and actually manages to kill the 3rd base of Lambo. Sneaks in, the Ghost Knife himself kills this 3rd base, and that might just be game ending. Lambo gets caught with his pants down twice in a row, and now Lambo is kind of in a do or die situation. His army is strong. He's about to have +2. If he can get a fight, a fair fight, a manly man's fight with Elazer, then Lambo can beat his army and move across the map and seal the deal. But so far, Elazer's actually taking the fight. Mutalisks show up and try to target down some of those expensive Hydras and Ravagers. But you see, Elazer is buying himself so much time by being so annoying. Lambo doesn't want him on his side of the map. But Elazer just keeps retreating, and then as soon as Lambo's okay, you're retreating, I can't really chase you because you're wasting my time. He attacks again, and then he has to react. And look at Lambo, he just has to stay at home, even though his advantage is just dwindling by the second. He has less workers, he is down an entire base, and his only advantage, the upgrades, is starting to dwindle as well. Hydroden is now being added on for Elazer. I would love to see Lambo get a nice fight before Hydras are added on for Elazer. Hydra's in the front, taking a lot of damage. You'd rather have those in the back, but now Lambo's finally across the map. Actually, Mutalisk completely destroying the main base of Lambo, which means Lambo can't retreat. He is all in. And it's very hard to move through this choke point with enough Ravagers in sight because you just put down Corrosive Biles, and although they don't kill your entire army, they just do so much damage. It's so much value. Final battle here. Lambo's hoping to crush through Elazer's army, but Elazer has bought so much time for himself. Lambo needs to win this convincingly. Otherwise, the reinforcements will end up cleaning him up. The reinforcing mutas are now here, and the Hydra count is actually so low that Lambo can't kill these Hydras. Oh my god, or can't kill the Mutalisk. And now Lambo's army, however, bigger than Elazer's. He does not have anything to rule the skies, and these Mutalisk will clean up the remaining roaches of Lambo. And Lambo now has some Hydras here, but he is down in workers, down in army supply. And this is a dead man walking if I've ever seen one. He needed a great fight, and he only got a good fight. And with that, Elazer takes this best of 5 with a 1-3 score. Really interesting to see both players go for a Spire and how both players react to seeing the other player having a slightly earlier Spire. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this cast. Elazer will be going up against Solar in the round of 4, but before that, we're going to watch Showtime versus Raynor up next. I hope you will join me then. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. You know you want to. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.